Hi, welcome to the contributors meeting. I'm going to be your host today. My name is Leo, and let me start sharing my screen. So going with the agenda for today, starting with the triage and discussions for the next week schedule. So let's start from the last week, primary and secondary. So we have Jesse and John. Jesse, I see you online. You have anything for this week?
No, the triage went pretty smoothly. There was I tried to close some enhancement requests that there was like very little chance that we would end up doing. Nothing big to report.
Okay, thank you. So let's decide for next week. It's been a while. I'm not helping with the triage, so I volunteer myself to be maybe primary for next week.
Same here. I have not done it for a while. I can be a secondary.
Okay. All right, and that covers the planned topics. So if somebody has some topic to add, feel free. Otherwise, it's going to be a really short meeting today.
I can give a just quick update about 2.3 release. It's delayed as usual, but right now we have just two things to worry about. One, we have security enhancements that we want to include in 2.3, and right now all PRs are open and basically soon will be merged. And we have two, again, open PRs for application set. We just need to merge, as I understand, we just need to merge one PR that introduces ARM64 image. And second, we need to, I guess, have another release of application set, which has image changes, and we need to update Argo CD, make Argo CD pull in the latest application set version, and we should be done. I think that's. That's it. Okay.
I have one topic.
Sure, go ahead.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, I've shared it in the chat. Can I mind if I steal the screen share to show you what I'm talking about here?
Yes, go ahead.
So, what we want to do, one of the things we want to do is bring in, one thing we're talking about, I don't know if you want to do is bring in more data into the Argo CD user interface. And by we, I mean, my team. And particularly, we want to bring in kind of application telemetry in there as well, and a way to get into whatever the telemetry system is surfaced. And I actually think this might be quite useful for rollouts as well. Currently, you can kind of build a user interface plugin that allows you to render a particular resource, which is great, but it's kind of limited to resource-orientated data in Kubernetes. And actually, there's quite a few other kinds of data that might be interesting to bring into the user interface. So I've raised this issue here, but I'm kind of inspired by this feature in Backstage called plugins. So I'll just give you an overview of that because I think it might explain my thinking better than I would myself. So I'm just going to choose a plugin at random from the selection. It wasn't random, it's a joke. So in Backstage, you can basically add new routes to your API server that proxy through to another system. So the Argo CD service sits in the front, providing authentication for users and SSL and that kind of business, TLS, and then requests to a particular endpoint effectively get proxied through to another application. So you basically provide this proxy configuration. Obviously, you've got to write your backend application as well, and then you provide some kind of plugin components to it, much like the system we already have for rollouts, which then appears in the user interface, and then there's some other additional configuration. And there you go. In this example, and it shows us at random Argo CD. You have a now Argo CD in your user interface. So that's kind of where I'm coming from in my solution. Sorry, closed it rather than went back. So I think there's a few kind of interesting use cases where you can bring in additional data into the application about the application. I'm not kind of proposing we step into the space of Backstage, actually, in terms of turning Argo CD into a developer portal. I don't think that's probably the right direction for it, but bring that additional information in there is quite good. There are some stuff around, I won't go into the security aspects of like preventing DOS attacks on those and how to do RBAC for those endpoints. Just a few notes here. I just wanted to bounce this idea off people and see if anybody else had thought about something like this recently and what they think about this and what ideas they might have.
Actually, the proxy approach is the original proposal we had for Argo CD extensions when we wanted to extend it to show the rollout UI, because the plan was to bake all the functionality and endpoints in the rollout dashboard somehow, and then for the proxy to actually proxy requests to show the rollout info inside the Argo CD UI. But I think we were concerned with the complexity to get that to work, and then luckily we figured out a way to do it all with like just static front end snippets. That said,
I don't think I'm suggesting changing how the front end extension mechanism works at all. Actually, I think keep that the same, but extend the extensions to allow you to add back-end routes. Maybe routes is not the right word. Maybe API endpoint is a better word.
I think it's, at least I think I understood what you're talking about, and I guess we were considering to add custom APIs, kind of the way to extend Argo CD API, and Argo would just proxy to something else, and then we landed on current design because we were just looking for the simplest possible implementation, and so I'm guessing if we have a use case that is not covered by current design, then we can consider APIs. Right now, we're just saying if you want to show something, make sure that data is in the resource that you want to visualize, and then you don't need API. It's you get this cheap backend, which is Kubernetes.
Yeah, I get that, and I wouldn't be proposing this if I didn't think that would work. And the reason that doesn't work well is fundamentally, we don't want a lot of throughput on any resources within the system, and something like a time series data, like a graph of data points of something that's 500 errors of my application. That's an awful lot of data. And if you put that through etcetd, you can imagine everything will start working properly. Whereas if it comes through like basically I want to go to not just Kubernetes to get my data, I want to go to another system to get I want to enrich that data with data from another system. And rather than just making it very specific about application telemetry endpoints, I thought maybe it would be better to have a general solution that does that. That allows, I'm actually not sure how many things people would want to do with it. If you look at the Backstage plugins, there are a lot of things around CI in there. I don't know if you want to bring CI information into Argo CD. But people may do.
I've had some thoughts about this for a while now. So I think, for the ones that you highlighted, like Splunk, PagerDuty, Prometheus, Wavefront, OpenTelemetry, for those type of things, I actually felt like we're never going to be as good as the original UI, and anything we attempt on the Argo CD extension front is just going to be like a poor man's version of like the actual thing. So rather than do kind of like a poor job of doing that, my opinion is for those type of things, Argo CD could have a better like deep linking mechanism to take users to the appropriate, the relevant Splunk page for this application, or the PagerDuty for this application, or the telemetry for this, so that they're one click away from that, given the parameters of the application. And this would be something that the operators can customize based on what they know about their metrics and application relationship. So for that, I think no matter what, I think we need a good deep linking mechanism. On the other hand, there are extensions that I feel we need to bake into the Argo CD UI for a lot of these optional ecosystem add-ons. Things like application set and notifications and image updater. I don't want all of these to be actually first class out of the box, like always on features, because I think we always need to have a lightweight version of Argo CD for people who just want to run it at the edge or in a more lightweight mode. So I do think the UI and has to have some extension mechanism to kind of like, okay, I need an easy way to play around with notifications or app sets or image updater or all those things. And I think that's actually where we can extend the UI for not just the ecosystem stuff, but for probably maybe the things you're thinking about in this proposal.
I struggle. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on this, with kind of knowing where to put extension points into the user interface, because it's hard to know where people will want them until people want them. And so you have kind of a catch-22 situation. It's like, okay, somebody wants an extension point, but when you click the sync button, something else pops up between the sync button and the next page, but you can't know until somebody asks that. So you can't provide it. You can't provide every extension point that people will possibly want, because you don't have the time to do it, and you don't want to maintain, a single extension point only used by a single user in a single use case. But do notifications and image updater need data from a different system to etcetd?
Less so that, but like to things like just like configuring notifications, right? Like the experience for that is they have to set an annotation on it and understand the the format for that. And then right now we're going in a direction where they might have to write YAML snippet inside the annotation itself. And that experience could be made simpler through like a simple UI pane that understands that format and just presents form fields to let them manage the notifications.
I think it's an example where you might want an API. If you want to, I don't know, provide auto suggestion, you need to pull data from somewhere. So even notifications might benefit from it, but I think it's kind of a big commitment. If you want to support extending APIs, that means you also raises a lot of security questions. Plus, like you want to, when we thought about it for rollouts, we also we realized that we would have to build an API, and then you need to run that API in a reliable manner. So it should be, you need at least few replicas. And so I think it's just like if you really have strong use case, then where like in case of notifications, I would still say, okay, I better not have auto completion, because it's maybe not the most important features of Argo CD, because API is just so much work and so much complexity.
Yeah. When you said it to me, I thought, well, there's a lot of lifting to be done to
Just
Yeah.
to
a small feature. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, that's cool. That's interesting feedback. That kind of chimes a bit with what I was thinking about in terms of the experience you can provide in Argo Seed. It's hard to provide a good as experience to as somebody else. Are people asking for anything like this? I mean, there is the other benefit of doing stuff like this is it allows you to grow the ecosystem, but that doesn't feel like an issue for Argo CD.
I mean, that was the other point I was going to make. So when we first did the UI extensions, the resource extensions, I'll call it, I was expecting a lot more, you know, community excitement, and I guess like, oh wow, yeah, look at what, like with the rollout being the poster child, like, or the reference examples, like, okay, look what's possible with rollouts now. And I thought the community would take off with their own extensions, and like nothing's really happened with that. So that's why I feel like we need, for something even more complex with like API backends and stuff, I think we need to tread carefully here without, you know, building too much complexity if it's only something small that we would use. But I do think that once again, I do want to I do like the idea if it helps keep the core of Argo CD lightweight and like not forcing us to like bake in all this functionality. So that would be
that's really interesting, yeah. Because the value of an extension system is really like the ecosystem around it, and if the ecosystem doesn't grow, you've kind of told yourself, you've shown to yourself that it's not maybe a very good idea, or it's not going to do what you want. Not that it's not a very good idea, but rather it's not going to build the ecosystem didn't appear, so it won't improve the community and the ecosystem. I think you're saying there, or that's how I would interpret that.
Yeah, but it maybe just takes time. You know, it took some time for plugins to take off. It's going to take some more time for plugins V2 to take off. So, but I mean, I was now surprised about all the plugins, V1 plugins that like popped up, but it just took like a year before, you know, people started creating KubeCon sessions about the Vault plugin and, you know, those type of things. So.
Slow burn.
But yeah, no, this is, I always mention like a direction I saw the extension mechanism going was for, you know, not just the resource, but sidebar extensions and application view extensions. And I think the only thing that I think we need to tread lightly on is if we need a proxying backend component to this versus if we can do things in purely from just form edits and front end stuff, the modified, you know, just a single resource or settings.
That's interesting. I was thinking, I haven't really thought about this, but maybe like a telemetry button would appear in the toolbar. And when you click on that, a drawer would appear from the right-hand side. I think drawer is a real word. A drawer would appear from the right-hand side, and that would contain your component, and that would make your API requests. And that your extension points would be, you know, extension, give me new application buttons, and extension, give me new, you know, what goes behind that button.
Yeah. Would iframes be kind of like a cheap way of achieving what you're looking for?
Yeah, but HTSS and X frame options and blah, blah, blah. All those things.
But
yeah,
this would be things, you know, be configured in the in our extension mechanism to permit from. I mean, assumably we would have to like to say yes, it's safe to visit this other URL embedded in this iframe, and then I don't know the you front end that well, but I'm assuming that it's possible for the user to not have a broken experience, but still using iframes.
I think there's, I mean, from the security point of view, embedding third-party code into your web pages, I think that people do quite commonly with things like trackers and so forth. But you always install those from a reputable source, don't you? With an ecosystem of plugins, you've got this kind of interesting tension between, how do I trust this plugin? How has it been validated? What's its provenance? Versus I want lots of plugins to grow the ecosystem. And you need to get the right balance between that, because you don't want people to be installing an Argo CD plugin willy-nilly and finding out it's exfiltrating all your kind of secrets from it. So may need a way to sandbox those user interface plugins to say, well, you only know about, we'll instantiate the plugin with a series of parameters, but you shouldn't be able to escape that sandbox. And get access to other data and other API endpoints. But I don't even know how that would work. Maybe Google React sandboxing. Okay, I guess that's all I wanted to ask about. Thanks, Jesse, Alex. Hong, do you have any thoughts on this? Anybody else?
I like it to be extensible, but I do agree with Jesse, and I'm more thinking about the graduation. I'm trying to make sure reduce the security exposure. That's, to me, is more key at this moment, since we are being more not criticized, maybe more blocked by more about security posture and those things. So this maybe open up more attack surface there.
Yeah. Will do. That's right. And you can be diligent about your security analysis of a feature like this, but you can't really avoid the fact that it will. You have to go into a lot of depth to mitigate that issue.
I know it's a little bit sad to using that reason, but it's kind of like the reality we are facing. So
but that's, I mean, also the easiest way to avoid buggy code is to write no code.
Oh,
less, doesn't really matter how much programming language you're in. The less lines of code you write, the less bugs you have.
I think Kelsey has one repository that is no bug code. Basically, it's a repository with nothing.
But it's a truism, isn't it? It's funny, but if you don't write any code, you don't have any bugs.
Yeah, no bug for sure.
Yeah, no security issues.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Anything else? Any other topics someone would like to bring up for discussion? Okay, thanks for the link.
It's getting 51,000 stars. Oh my God.
Zero bugs.
Anyway, just a good joke today. Cool.
Okay, so if we don't have any other topic to discuss, I'll end the meeting now, and see you all next week. Thank you.
Bye.